What's up, y'all, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm actually going to be doing something very different from my normal content. I meet a lot of new nurses with a job that I have now, and I get a lot of questions about travel nursing. So today I'm going to be answering the most frequently asked questions regarding travel nursing and giving you guys some of my firsthand experience with travel nursing. So if I don't answer a question that you have during this video, then please leave a comment down below and I will be sure to answer your questions. So let's get right into the video, y'all. The first question I get asked is, how do I become a travel nurse? Y'all, it is so easy. You really just have to find a company or maybe two companies that you want to travel with. You fill out their application and that's it. A recruiter will reach out to you and let you know what additional information that they need. Usually they need like your resume, any certifications that you have, including like your ACLS, your BLS, your PAL. Also like any formal certifications that you have, like if you're a certified med-surg nurse, a certified telemetry nurse, a certified emergency room nurse, they'll need that as well. And any other certifications that you have. So you'll just send those over to them. And they usually require like your flu shot, up-to-date flu shot record. And now the big thing is COVID, because a lot of hospitals require that you have a COVID vaccine. And then that's just it. After that, then you begin to look at assignments. The next question is, where do I work? You work wherever you want to work. So if you want to work in the state that you live in, you can do that. If you want to go to another state, you can do that as well. So you search through the assignments that are available and you let the recruiter know which assignments you would like to be submitted for, to interview for. So it is completely up to you. Hey y'all, I'm sorry I had to pop in and do a little disclaimer here because I don't feel like the first go around I explained this very well. You can work wherever you want to work, but there is a disclaimer. You have to be licensed in that state. And it's easier if you have a compact state license. You can travel to any state within the compact because you are essentially already licensed to work in that state. Now, if the state is not a part of the compact, you either have to do one or two things. If their board of nursing does this, you can get a temporary license for that state. Or if they don't have temporary licenses available, then you would have to get a license via endorsement, meaning that you have a good standing license in the state that you were originally licensed in. That allows you to apply for a license in that state that's not a part of the compact based on your good standing license you already have. So for an example, when I first came to Georgia, Georgia was not part of the compact. So I had to apply for a single state Georgia license. I submitted all the paperwork. I actually had to fly to Georgia to get my fingerprints done because it was a requirement of their board of nursing that you get your fingerprints done in the state of Georgia. And so that's what I did. And then I eventually got licensed. The company that I was working for at that time did reimburse me for the money that I paid to obtain my Georgia license. So now we can jump back into the video. I hope that cleared that up for y'all. That there are two different ways that you can travel. So the first way is you'll be an actual travel nurse, meaning that you are going to be working at a place that's 50 miles or more away from your home. Or you can be what they consider a local traveler, meaning you are less than 50 miles away from your home. And the difference in the two is actually how you get paid. So if you are a travel nurse, meaning you're 50 miles or more away from your home, you qualify for a housing stipend or free housing from the company that you're working with. So the housing stipend is the most popular amongst travel nurses because it is tax free. And that's how travel nurses make a bulk of their money. You also get what they call meals and incidentals, meaning they pay you per day for meals, basically meals and any incidentals. Like if something happens, you have to go to a doctor or whatever. And that's usually about $40 per day. So if you miss a day of work, really specifically, if you call out, you don't get the pay for that day. So you don't get the allotted housing stipend for that day, and you won't get the allotted meals and incidentals for that day either. When you are a local traveler, you get a higher hourly pay, because when you are a travel nurse, you get a housing stipend and the hourly pay is not as much because the hourly pay is taxed. But when you're a local traveler, your hourly pay is higher. You don't qualify for the housing stipend, but you still get the meals and incidentals. That's like the basic pay breakdown. So I will kind of give you guys an example. My first assignment was, I think it was September 2016. I was in Northern Virginia. It was very close to DC. So cost of living there pretty high. And because of that, they got paid basically what the nurses in DC got paid. So I got paid $1,700 a week. And that was with my housing stipends, meals and incidentals, and my hourly pay. The coins, honey, the coins. I made a lot of money. And that was if I didn't pick up any extra shifts. That was just my 312s that I worked a week. I pulled in $1,700. Now, if I did an extra shift or two, I could easily make $2,000 a week. Very easily. So while I was in Northern Virginia, it was actually 2 hours away from my home, but it was more than 50 miles from my permanent address. So I was considered a travel nurse. So what I did was I would go up, get a hotel room. I would stay in the hotel for the 3 days that I worked. And then I went home after my last shift. I worked night shifts, so sometimes I would take a nap. Like I would lay down from like 7 to 12 and then check out my hotel room and then proceed to go home. But that's just how I did it. And y'all, I made a lot of money. I actually stayed there for 2 assignments and I made quite a bit of coins, honey. Quite a bit of coins. My next assignment, I actually went to Charlotte, North Carolina. And I was further away from home. I was about 4 hours away from home. So I opted to take the free housing from the company that I was traveling with. Now, with the free housing, you'll let them know whether you want the stipend or the free housing. If you take the free housing, they give you a 1-bedroom apartment, 1 bathroom. It's fully furnished. However, it doesn't have everything you need. At least it didn't for me, in my experience. I didn't have everything I need. I didn't have a trash can, a broom, a pot, a pan, a sheet, no sheets for the bed, no shower curtain, none of that. So all of that stuff I had to go out and purchase. So this assignment, I actually made about $1,500 a week at this assignment. It was a 13-week contract. I stayed there for 1 contract. Will I get holiday pay? Yes, you will get holiday pay, and the holiday rate would or should be in your contract. And most of the time it's a lot of money. Like I'm talking $50, $60 per hour on holidays. So yes, you do qualify for holiday pay. And that leads me into the next question. How does scheduling work? So the number one thing that I could tell you with travel and nursing is to be open. You can ask during the interview process how they normally schedule. You can also ask in your contract for block scheduling, meaning that you work your 3 days together. And that sometimes helps if you're trying to travel back and forth from home. But it's not a guarantee. You know, sometimes they will say yes and sometimes they'll say no. So you can ask those questions during the interview process. So the next question is, am I required to pay for my own travel expenses? And the answer to that is yes and no. So that is a question that you definitely need to ask your recruiter. Most of the time, if you're going to another state, say you're flying somewhere or you're taking a road trip there, you pay for your expenses up front. You submit all of your receipts and the travel company will reimburse you for those things up to a certain dollar amount. So that's something you definitely want to ask your recruiter in the beginning so that you have all the information. What about scrubs? Am I expected to pay for scrubs? So the answer to that, again, is yes and no. So a lot of times we already have the scrubs. In my experience, a lot of companies use Navy scrubs, and most of the time as nurses, we already have Navy scrubs. But if you go somewhere where they require a certain color of scrubs, you pay for your scrubs up front. You submit the receipt to the company and they will reimburse you for those scrubs that were required for that assignment. How long are nursing travel assignments? So nursing travel assignments vary. I would say the most common assignment you'll see is 13 weeks. There are some contracts out there that are shorter. There are some 4-week contracts. There are some 8-week contracts, 10 weeks. But the most common you will see is 13 weeks. Can I take a travel assignment close to my home? Yes, like I just discussed, you can take a travel assignment close to home. Just know that if you are less than 50 miles away or 50 miles or less from your home, then you're considered a local traveler, which means that you do not qualify for the housing stipend. You will get a higher hourly rate, but that hourly rate is taxed, so you don't make as much, but you still do get the meals and incidentals. I actually did a contract where I was considered a local traveler. So in the beginning of 2020, before it was declared a pandemic, I signed a contract to do a travel assignment. And I was less than 50 miles from my permanent address. So I was considered a local traveler. So the hospital that I worked at was maybe about an hour and a half away from where I lived. I just drove back and forth because it was an easier thing for me to do. And that contract, because I was a local traveler, like I explained before, I did not qualify for the housing stipend. So I did get a higher hourly rate, and then I got my meals and incidentals per day. And that contract, I made about $1,300 a week. I did try to go back and renegotiate with my company because obviously a whole pandemic broke out. But unfortunately, because I had already signed the contract, they were not willing to adjust my pay. So it was okay. It worked out. I made the money that I was supposed to make and it was fine. Am I eligible for benefits like health insurance and vacation? So yes, you are eligible for benefits, as in health insurance, dental insurance, eye insurance, and your company should go over all of that when you first sign up with them. As far as vacation, no, you are a kind of like an independent contractor. So no, you don't get vacation time. But the one thing about travel nursing is you get to make a lot of money pretty quickly. So if you are a good steward of your money, I know a lot of travel nurses who have taken assignments back to back, 3 or 4 assignments back to back, and then took 3 to 6 months off of work because they've saved so much money. So if you're a good steward of your money, you absolutely can take a vacation. It just won't be paid, honey. And does the staffing agency pay for my living expenses? So we just went over that. Yes, you can get free housing, which means you don't pay any rent or anything like that. Now, some travel agencies do offer cable and some don't, cable or internet, and some don't. That's be something that you would have to discuss with your recruiter for your specific agency. Can I travel with my family and or pets? The answer is yes. I know some nurses who take their dogs with them, and I have heard of nurses bringing their whole family with them. So yes, absolutely, you can travel with your family and your pets. Can I travel with another travel nurse? The answer is yes. And actually, it's kind of smart to travel with another traveling nurse. You absolutely can do that. And you both take the housing stipend and then y'all get housing together and split the cost. And that cuts down your housing costs. So it's absolutely smart to do so. Will I get the worst assignments? It's hard. I will say yes and no, not all the time. There are some scenarios where you go to a hospital and they are very happy that you're there and they treat you very well and they, treat you fairly. And there are scenarios where you go places and they're not happy that you're there because they know you're making a lot of money. And because of that, they will give you the worst assignment sometimes. Sometimes you won't get any help. Sometimes they'll be rude to you. Like, yes, it has happened to me, y'all. When I first came to Georgia, I worked at a hospital and y'all, the nurses was not happy to have me there. I struggled a little bit too because I had never used Cerner before. And the computer training that they gave us was just not adequate. So I struggled just with the technology part. I know how to be a nurse. I have been a nurse for a while once I got here. But yeah, the staff was not very friendly when I first got there. And it took a while for them to warm up to me. And then once they warmed up to me, it got a little better. But I would definitely say like I had to speak up for myself in that scenario. So if that happens to you, try to stick it out if you can, because you only there for 13 weeks. And if you don't like it, you can leave and never return. But if you feel like you're in a situation where you just cannot handle it, do not stay in a situation where you feel like it's not safe for your license or your mental health, honey. I would not advise that, okay? If an assignment is cut short due to low census, do I get full pay? That's a tricky question. I will say during my first assignment, it was like a little back and forth between me and the hospital because there were a couple of days where I got canceled because their charge nurse called and canceled me. But luckily it was in my contract that even if I got canceled due to low census, I still got paid. So I was able to fight for my pay for those days that I was canceled. I would say you have to communicate with your recruiter about that. There are some instances where it's in your contract and they have to pay you. So if it's in your contract, absolutely you can get paid. If it's not, then you may not. So, but I would definitely, before you sign the contract, you sign on that dotted line, you definitely raise that question. How long will there be a demand for travel nurses? I really feel like there will always be a demand for travel nurses. There's always a shortage of nurses. I mean, if you ever just go and look on a travel nurse site, there's always a bunch of assignments out there. So I really feel like there will always be a demand for nurses. How much experience should I have before I start travel nursing? I really feel like you should have at least 2 years of nursing under your belt before you start travel nursing. And I say that because when you are a travel nurse, they expect you to know how to be a nurse already. You get very, very, very minimum orientation. It's basically like computer orientation to make sure that you know how to use their EMR system. Maybe 3 shifts on the floor. I have had less than that. I've had 2 8-hour shifts on the floor, and that was it. And that's basically so that you know where everything is, how they do things, where you can find their policies, those things like that. So I would definitely say have at least 2 years under your belt before you start travel nursing, because if you're very new to nursing and you don't have those critical thinking skills and that confidence, it could be difficult for you. Do I recommend travel nursing? And I would say yes, absolutely. It's a great way for you to make a lot of money in a small period of time doing what you already do. So it's a no-brainer. I know that it's not for everybody, but I feel like every nurse should experience at least one travel nursing assignment, just to say that you've done it, and also so you can get you some of that coin that's out there. Also, it's a way for you to come in, do your job, take care of your patients, and go home. You don't have to deal with any of the politics that come along with working for healthcare companies. I know we've all experienced it out there. Yes, if you are a seasoned nurse, if you're a confident nurse, if you have that experience, yes, I do recommend travel nursing. That's all I have for you guys. I feel like I've answered the most frequently asked questions regarding travel nursing. If there was a question that you had that I did not answer, please leave a comment down below and I will be sure to answer your question. But I want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of this type of content. And until next time, bye.